Radha. Congratulations on your film, DOSH.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
More of a congratulations is being showcased really, really soon at this upcoming Slamdance Film Festival in Park City, one of the most prestigious film festivals in the world. So tell us about, tell us about your reaction to being showcased there.
Yeah. So I was actually I just remember receiving the call. I had been like a little bit like under the weather for about a week, and I got this call from both Asha and Juliet, who were, the founders of the Unstoppable program at Slamdance. And when they had called to share that news with me, I just like it was like as if I was no longer sick anymore. I was like, oh my God, this is like the best news ever. Yeah, I mean, I think it's just such a dream, like as a filmmaker, to be able to screen something in Park City in what seems to be the most, most the most sought after week, like in the whole entire film industry. And Slamdance has been nothing but like just so supportive of these independent filmmakers like myself. And I could just tell in terms of how receiving they are, and whenever we have our calls with each other, and so I'm just incredibly grateful. Like I just know that this is not only good for the film, but it's good for my entire team. As we try to step up like in our own respective careers.
Yeah, that is terrific. I mean, it's a great opportunity, and a lot of eyes will be on this. But we have to ask where the original idea came from for Dash.
Yeah, so for dosh, it means like fault or flaw in Hindi. And it actually inspired by my own like true events. And so I had been once deeply in love with someone who had gotten late onset, had been diagnosed late onset bipolarism, and that was kind of like the core of the idea in terms of like this relationship between a husband and a wife. And in our culture, we're often told to that the only way to heal any kind of mental ailments is through holistic practices such as yoga, meditation, deep breathing, pranayam. And the idea of anything to do with psychiatry is considered a scam. And I just remember going through that experience. I was like, I wish I had been more informed on what I can do to be able to help in the best way possible as a caretaker. And I kind of blame our culture, my specific South Asian, like Indian culture, for not educating us more about this, because we were at a complete led to negative consequences that affected both of our lives. And so part of the reason for the title dosh is because it's not the fault of those who have a disability or of a mental health challenge of the behaviors that we have. And I'll tell you why we are often blamed that it is our fault in our culture. But I believe that it's not our fault. It's in fact the fault of our society and culture for not being better about like having these open conversations with one another and being able to openly discuss with love and empathy towards one another so that we can rise, above the shame that we often feel. And the reason why we are often shamed is because specifically in our Indian culture, and if you're a Hindu, there's this whole karmic law that plays into effect. So it's as if like, the what goes around comes around. And I remember growing up, in my case of disability, if you that I must have done something wrong in a past life to deserve this certain condition. And
Mhm.
so then that would make my family feel ashamed. And it's just one of those things that we were always told to keep all our problems under our own roof. His shame is something that can be so debilitating for all of us. So yeah, so the root of this is based on my past relationship, as well as, the certain events that happen in the film are also based on things that have happened true to me. Like there's an underwater situation that happens. That's something that happened to me when I was a kid. And thankfully, someone saved me. So yeah, so that's kind of like the root of it. And then, just her, the mother the main character of this film, her being hard of hearing is representative of me as who I am because I'm hard of hearing. And I just wanted to be able to, I want to be able to show a story that's not about disability, but it just happens to be part of a character trait. But how that then, seems to be very an important piece throughout the whole through line of the film. So yeah, it's just really a slice of life in this specific family's instance, and that's all based on my own, true events. So
Okay, well let me address the first of
yeah.
the theme of the bipolar issue. Tell us for those people who don't know what bipolar is and what are the signs and the consequences of living or being with someone with bipolar.
Yeah. Yeah, so bipolarism is quite wide ranging. There's acute, there's severe. So from I can only speak from my own experience, but bipolarism is when someone can switch from like feeling a certain way to a different way, like within a drop of a pin. And from what I've learned through this process and educating myself as well, there's a chemical imbalance that kind of takes place. And so a lot of times that chemical imbalance needs to be treated with certain medication to help balance that out. Unfortunately, certain medications can also make you feel these other really bad side effects, such as being suicidal. And but bipolarism itself is just like is a chemical imbalance and where you can feel like happy one moment but then feel completely angry another moment, or if you're behaving very very soft in one moment and then be completely hard in a different moment, that like aggressive, you know and and yeah, so that's something that I just know from personal experience. But yeah, I would imagine that there's quite a range in terms of like, you know how people can just switch between hot and cold, that could just be more of like a very, a very acute, like low level. But then there's severe, where bipolarism then leads to like prolonged manic episodes, which I had been a part of, as a caretaker. So when you have a prolonged episode, it's like the person may be maybe it feels like in a different state of mind, and certain things are being channeled through them to feel like, okay, I'm doing this because I was channeled to do this in some way. And in that prolonged manic episode, it's like you're not talking to the actual person that um that that person to be, like something is switched off. And those episodes can be very just heartbreaking. They can be very heartbreaking for the person that's going through it, versus also, of course, the person that's actually witnessing everything as well. It's just very heartbreaking because you want to be able to talk to the person that but then you can tell that this person is not the same person. So
Wow. So yeah, the unpredictability would be very, very tough to hold a relationship as
very
in
hard.
like in that,
It's
especially if
it's
they don't
tough.
seek help.
Yeah, yeah, and just from personal experiences too is sometimes when you are in a specific episode and you feel high, you feel naturally high that otherwise drugs can make you feel, you don't want to take medication that would suppress you. And then that makes it even worse because the medication is there to be able to help balance you out, at least balance the chemical imbalance. But when you don't take the medication, then you can spiral and spiral and spiral. And every medication works differently for different people, from what I've gathered. And some can be so detrimental, and some can be really, really helpful that they can actually live a productive life. A life where they feel that they're not attacking themselves all the time.
Absolutely. Now, of course, you mentioned about the mother character, being hard of hearing, not completely deaf,
Yeah.
which is based on yourself too. Tell us about utilizing that into the story, particularly with the particular scene where you have to use the volume of sound.
Yeah. Yeah. So in the beginning of the film, I wanted to help, as for all of us to understand who this character is. And this is going to be her story that we follow. And something happens at the beginning of the film where she is has a moment to herself. But then because of you'll later learn in the story that she barely has time to charge her own hearing aids. And so then there's like a signal, is like, oh, low battery. And it's a moment for her to just switch off. So I can speak for myself, like, as sometimes, like, I actually do choose to switch off my hearing aids if I just want to tune out the world. And in that case, it was an instant where she wanted to tune out the world and just have a moment to herself. And then she does this thing that makes her feel really happy, but then she's snapped back into reality of whatever her situation is going on, which we learn through the film. And that volume, I played with that to be able to say like, okay, this person is, has a hearing impairment, but then also it could be, like being able to turn off and on sound has different repercussions. In this case, it was for her own good. She was able to turn off sound so that she has a moment of silence to herself. But then later on in the film, when it's taken off, it's a form of abuse, actually, when you take the one thing away that makes you be able to feel so in touch with this world.
Hmm.
It becomes like hearing aids just become a part of our identity. Just like if someone were deaf, like they would do sign language as part of their identity. So when you take something away from them, then, in an abusive way, then it's just like you're basically stripping them of their own freedom.
Now, one of the basis of your short film, the Hindu ceremony.
Mhm.
Tell us about that ceremony, and tell why you decided to bring that culture into your short film.
Yeah, so I was born in a two religion household, Hinduism being one of them, and then the other is Jainism, which its main principle is nonviolence. And Hinduism, I just really remember like the weddings that I had. The priest would just recite these amazing chants. And one of the rituals that I remember that I loved is this haldi ceremony, because I'm Gujarati, so we call it haldi, but it's actually like this turmeric ceremony where it's cleansing. So it's like right the night before or the day before you actually have your wedding, everyone in the family and friends as well, they put turmeric all over the face, and then you clean it afterwards, and then that's the idea, is that you're cleansing out your past sins, and then you're entering into this new chapter of marriage. And so this specific ceremony is a haldi ceremony that's happening, and then the priest is reciting certain chants. And I will say every state within our country of India, all the different cultures have different ways that they go about it. But this was based on my own way of how we did our haldi ceremony. We had a priest that chanted all these shlokas like all throughout the ceremony, and then my friends would then just put haldi on me. Um, and so that ceremony was just meant to be a very intimate, private thing. And then in this case, we made it like where it was an intimate, private, holy ceremony, but then we made it a sangeet, like a little dance party afterwards. There's like food, just laughter, having fun. And so you see them go into into the living room where they all have a dance party as well. But the Hindu culture, it's just a Hindu religion itself is just so prevalent in my upbringing. And it's not something that I actively practice today. I consider myself somewhat non-denominational now, but I'm more spiritual and metaphysical. But it's just there's so many beautiful things within the Hindu religion that I just totally admire. So I wanted to incorporate that in it, but make it super, super intimate.
Did you use real actors for the priests and musicians in your film?
The musicians, absolutely. They're just full-time musicians. And for the priest, he actually does, he's an actor in real life as well, but he does a lot of ceremonies for other people. So he's trained in Sanskrit, which is why I wanted to be able to do that. So the fact that I got him as an actor, but he also does this for a living as well, like he recites slokas for like these other, weddings and, other events. I was like, this is a win-win. So.
Well, it's excellent. Radha, tell us how you came to the decision to make this into, a short film. I guess you could have made it into a full-length feature film if you wanted to, but tell us how you settled it into a short film.
Yeah, I think I needed to I use this as a chance for me to make like to go through my own therapy in a way. It was a tough process because so this is my MFA thesis film with from American Film Institute. And what before you go into your second year is you're going to be spending a whole year on this short film, which a lot of people spend a whole year on a feature film. And in my case, I was like, all right, if I'm going to do a short film, then I want to make it the most meaningful to me and for me to be able to learn something and to be able to come out of it a new person. And I just felt like there was some unresolved tension within myself about this specific relationship that I had had before, that I was like, how can I be able to share this in a form of art and feel some kind of catharsis in it? But do it in a way that my team members all feel so invested in the sense of like, we can all relate to it, you know? And so I had this incredible joy of like being able to share the story with these really close friends of mine who are all my teammates. And then we were each able to elevate certain elements of the story to make it what I feel, you know, what we feel proud of now. Um, but I chose to focus on this to just be a short. I don't, you know, tonally this may serve as a proof of concept for my feature film. But the story itself, I feel like it's meant to be contained in this short only, which why, in my opinion, I feel it's complete. And it's part of it. It was just I needed to get this off my chest, you know, I needed to get it off. And also more importantly, you know, I wanted to see like this is obviously a very specific story. I want to see if there's an opportunity where this can open up conversations within my culture and even beyond, so that we can openly talk about shame as it relates to disability and mental health. And how can we overcome that and be able to rise above it, but with love and empathy?
Now, cinematically, you really challenge yourself if that's what you were actually going for. A
Yeah,
night shoot, a ceremonial shoot, up close, and even a water
yeah.
scene. Tell us about navigating through that course. I mean, I guess it's almost like you're doing a feature film.
Yeah, yeah, no, and thanks for noticing that. Yeah, so you know, when I was at AFI, the first year we had the opportunity to make back-to-back short films with pretty, you know, pretty good budgets. But these are films that no one in the world will ever see because it's meant to be for us to experiment and fail and learn from them. And so this is actually my narrative directorial debut. And I just remember if I'm going to spend a whole year on this, then let me challenge myself, like not only in story, but also like in the way we can push the boundary a little bit cinematically. That's different than anything we did that first year. And so one of the big things is I'm very drawn by water because it's something I'm truly scared of. But yet water is the thing that makes us live, right? Like we can't live without water. And that drowning that happens is based on my own personal event when I was 8 years old, when I had been at a party and my parents were busy mingling and I went outside and then I almost drowned. And so my neighbor or the neighbor of that party ended up rescuing me. And the next thing I know is he brought me in and he told the party is like, whose child is this? And my parents came and ran and they got me. And so they tell this story to me to this day. And although I may not specifically remember the events, it's somehow in my subconscious because I am very scared to swim in the ocean water. And I'm even scared to get even swimming lessons for my kids. They're 4 and 7, so they start tonight. But I'm so scared, but I know that that's the right thing because that's the first way of preventing any kind of drowning. So the water thing was just very important to me for this film. And I was like, let's, you know, my DP and I were really keen on the idea. And we wanted to challenge ourselves to do this so that we could be able to say, hey, we did an underwater scene. And then in terms of the event, that's something that I had a little bit of practice on from my previous, practice films that I did at AFI. Like I like big events. And I think that just in India in general, like in our South Asian diaspora, like we always are celebrating events, like whether if it's a wedding or anything like that. So I was like, let me just do something that's a little bit different than what you see on screen and let me do a haldi ceremony. So I did that. Um, Directing a kid, that's like not easy, especially when it comes to being underwater and making it feel very believable. So that was like a huge challenge, especially since we were filming in November and it was so cold. And then the water, you know, the pool water didn't heat to the level that we wish it would have. So I was just grateful that I had a cast that was so invested in the story and will do whatever is necessary, given that there were some pivotal scenes there that if we didn't get that, then the story, then it wouldn't be the story, you know? So yeah, I
Wow.
did challenge myself. Our production, AFI production was like, oh, you guys really wanted to pull all the stops here, you know? And so my producer was busy, like definitely trying to make everything, you know, work the way we wish to make it work. So I kudos to the entire team on making it happen. So
Yeah, kudos on your entire production team, and let's not forget about your cast. Talk a little bit about the cast that you assembled here.
yeah, so Renu Razdan is our lead, Karishma. She's someone that I had the opportunity to meet my first year at AFI, and she had been in a few of my practice films there. And I just really loved my vibe. Like, I just love the vibe and the energy that she has. She's so talented. And in looking at her past works, I was like, I feel like this story can really elevate her in a lot of ways. And I know that she will bring everything to the table. So I was always set on wanting to cast her as my lead. It was just I wanted to make sure my team felt comfortable with that. But when my team told me that, hey, we want you to cast her, I was like, great. I already had that in my mind, but I'm glad that you guys want that too. So that's great, because it makes me feel like the whole team was really invested in wanting to make that decision together. And then Nikhil Prakash plays Ram. He's someone that I'd known for years, but I hadn't seen for like 8 years until we're ready to make this film. And then he randomly posted a picture of himself. He goes, I went through some tough times, but I'm doing well now. And I just remember he had a love for acting. And so when I reached out to him, I was like, what have you been up to? And he kind of shared his personal story of like this, tough time that he had gone through in his life. And I was like, would you be willing to like audition for this role? Let me send you the script. And he's like, absolutely. I want to get back into acting. And I just felt like because of his past, like the certain hardship that he had just gone through, I felt like that rawness was necessary for his character, and then that it helped play with the tension between the husband and wife as well. So I just felt like he was the right fit. And then Mona Sishodia, who plays the mother-in-law, she she is someone that I had been watching for a little while within our South Asian, culture, like in terms of the things that she had, been in. And I just love her realness, whenever she like says something like sarcastic or whatever, but it's like deadpan sometimes. And I just knew that that was like the kind of mother that I wanted, someone that could be not cliched like the typical mean mother-in-law of any sort, but someone that actually has a little bit of love and empathy, but is conflicted. She's actually conflicted herself because she's told by her own society on how to behave and how to like keep things under the roof. Yet she sees that there's this like challenge and this rift that's happening, and she doesn't know necessarily how to handle it. And then the kid himself, that was just, I'll say it's really hard to find a kid, actor that can play younger than so in his case we initially wanted like an 8-year-old kid, and what was great about him is that he looks very young. So Tyler Anton is who and he's part Asian, he's part he's within our diaspora, so it was really great to be able to work with him, and he had the experience, and I was able to make it work with him playing young, is what we were going for. So those are my four leads. And then the priest himself is a friend of mine that acted in some of my stuff before, and a lot of the people that you see as like background cast, they're all friends, so like we all support one another. So I feel blessed because I had been lucky to work with ABC for many years in their casting to be able to like elevate South Asian talent. And we co-host this workshop annually where we can bring in South Asian talent to meet with all the executive, directors of these shows. And I met all these actors through those years and like pushing their faces forward. I was like, you got to meet this person. And so then this was their time to like, get me back. I'm like, hey, can you help me out with this film? And they're like, absolutely. So I felt like I had community there.
It sounds like you had a terrific experience, especially through the program with AFI here.
Yes, I definitely did. I would say it's not easy. I was the only mother in the entire program, and being a parent in a very tough conservatory, like where you're basically gone from like 9 to 9 every single day of the week, is not for the faint of heart. I think it was really tough because I missed seeing my kids grow up those 2 years. But I will say it was completely worth it because I feel like what I came out with is really just valuable knowledge in terms of narrative filmmaking, because I had done docs before, but narrative filmmaking is it's a whole different thing. And I'm so glad that I got that foundation now, even though it's much later in life. I'm glad that I had that foundation now with hopes to now make many films, narrative films that are based on true stories is what I'm going for.
Most excellent. Well, Radha, I've taken a lot of your time already, but tell us what's next up on your plate. How are you going to leverage this to your next project?
Yeah, so I have a narrative feature that's being developed at the moment. It's called Tuner, and it's based on my personal experience of having been a singer-songwriter, but hard of hearing. And just like it's like a family drama as well. So DOSH actually serves as like a proof of concept tonally for this feature film. So I'm working on that, working on submitting it to certain labs for consideration so that I can continue to not only be developed to the best of its ability, but then also like get financing for it. And then I'm also a director of a feature documentary that we're in production on about a mother-son duo and how they navigate the disability of being hard of hearing and how they change laws in their state of Indiana. And this true love between them two. And it's the son that actually is hard of hearing and how he chooses to thrive in silence. Like he finds beauty in his disability and how he thrives in silence. And so those are my two big projects that are coming up. And yeah, so I would love any support. Like if like for anyone out there that resonates with DOSH, please, I would love to have you in my corner as I continue to develop the feature, that I'm working on right now. So
You know what? Keep on with the quality of
thank you.
this type of storytelling. You'll be back in Park City again in no time, possibly across the street to the other festival. Who knows?
Yeah. Yeah. No, I'm grateful. I'm treating as this might be my only time ever coming out there. So I've pulled all the stops in terms of like making sure my whole team was going to be there. I'm staying the entire time. And I just really I'm going to make the best of it. But yeah, like here's hoping that there's future opportunities to be out there. But I'm just grateful that I'm getting to go this time. So
Both sex. Well, hey, thank you for this conversation. I'm certainly, willing and know that we will probably connect again down the road.
yeah. Are you going to Park City? Can I see you
I
there?
I am not going to Park City.
Okay. Okay.
I have a lot of events.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right now it's like there's a award season and
Yes, that's true. That's
so
so true. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
so I'm stuck in Southern California while everyone's
You
enjoying the, you know what?
cold, cold weather. Yeah.
I was gonna say it's fairly cold right now.
Oh God, that's the thing I'm not looking forward to. Like I gotta bundle up with like layers upon layers.
But you know what? You enjoy because I'm jealous that Park City is a very unique experience, and
Yeah.
for some of us it might be once, maybe multiple times. Who knows?
Yeah. Who knows? Who knows? You just never know.
Right,
But
that's right.
yeah, thank you so much. It was such a pleasure talking to you and thank you for your questions.
Hey, no, thank you for taking the time, and thank you for making a splendid film. Thank you very much.
Yes, thank you.
Right. Bye now.
Bye. Mhm.